Hello, everyone. This is Ankur Joshi. I'm the founder and CEO of Nuclei. We are a B2B fintech company which works primarily with banks and telcos and have developed multiple products and work with banks across South Asia, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. Today, I'm privileged to welcome Shyam Mohan from Mastercard onto this podcast. Shyam and I have known each other for many years. He's, in fact, our sponsor for the Start Path program, which we enrolled into in 2019. And he has been a good mentor and a very good friend, even a better friend for me personally over the years. Welcome, Shyam, to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Ankur. And likewise, it's great to be here with you. Yes, I think what started off as an engagement through the Start Path program has turned into a good friendship, which I think is one of the great outcomes I've had of working with you, in official capacity and then taking it beyond that. Great to be here.
I'm good to hear that. Good to hear that. So, Shyam, let's begin with your background first. So, you did your engineering, you did your MBA. You originally come from Calicut, uh, and then you transitioned and have primarily been working in Middle East region most of the years, most of the time in Mastercard. Just want to understand what your background has been, how has been your journey, what are the key driving forces in your life, and what drives you to keep on, performing with the same amount of passion which you have been performing for the last so many years.
Right. So in terms of background, Ankur, I come from, the typical middle class Indian family, did engineering, then went for an MBA, and I passed out of my MBA institution in 2009, which was at the peak of recession. So what I wanted to do in life at that point in time is completely different from what I'm doing today. At that point in time, it was about getting into an investment bank and, going abroad and finding a cushy job that makes a lot of money. But as luck may have it, I ended up in the field of payments. So out of MBA, I joined a company where I was, managing payment products. That took me to UAE in Abu Dhabi. So I was with this company called UAE Exchange, and there I started getting into launching prepaid card programs and other payment related solutions. So this was kind of a very, very revealing experience for me because I'd never thought of an industry that can be so dynamic, that can be so challenging as the payments industry is. When I started working on, remittance solutions, prepaid card solutions, it just opened my eyes to a whole new area of solutions that are being deployed across the globe for solving real life problems. And this was even before the fintech term got popularized. It's quite popular these days, but really to understand that you could do a lot of things in the payments and transaction space, leveraging technology, leveraging new business models was an eye opener for me. So that's what led me to stick to this industry. Then while working at that company launching prepaid programs, I started interacting with Mastercard because we were launching those programs on the Mastercard platform, on the Mastercard brand, and eventually got an opportunity to join this organization. So I've been with Mastercard since 2013 and have done multiple roles within the span of 8 to 9 years that I've been here. So I started off with doing prepaid business development for Mastercard, which is essentially talking to banks, non-banks, retailers, other merchants about launching prepaid programs across Middle East, North Africa, which was, on the issuing side of our business. So essentially launching issuing programs. Did that for a while, then transitioned into the merchant space. And this is where payments innovation within merchants was just starting to pick up. A lot of merchants were understanding that they are the point of interaction for end users, and hence they hold a lot of influence and power on the behavior of spends and payments of their users. So merchants started thinking about payments innovation. You saw the emergence of digital merchants like your Uber and Airbnb and Facebook, and everybody was getting into payments or at least trying to get into it. So I got the opportunity to work in that space as my next stint, managing the relationships with some of these large digital merchants for Middle East Africa. So I did issuing, then I did merchants, which were on the two ends of the spectrum. And then I got the opportunity to work with startups, which was my third role, where I was leading the Start Path program for Middle East Africa.
So let me just get in
Yep.
here. So having known you for past so many years, I know that you are very, very passionate about startups.
Yep.
Where does this passion, and obviously there is some passion in the backstory there, which led you to start your work with start working with startups and get into Start Path program, right? So what's that is driving this passion of yours?
Right. So to put it very simply, I think I'm one of those people who you can probably define as risk averse. In an ideal world, I would be, running my own startup, but knowing myself, I probably don't have enough guts to do that. But I know how exciting this world is. I know the value that startups bring to the ecosystem and the world in general, how they are solving for specific pain points that others have not been able to, how nimble and agile and flexible they are. So all of those are exciting factors for me. Sitting within a corporate, being able to work with the startup community is what led me to taking up this role and then figuring out that there is a lot that I can do, even if I'm sitting on the side of the fence, right? So enabling startups, helping them grow, helping them find the right solutions, find the right partnerships is definitely the value that I can bring to the table. But at the same time, I don't necessarily have to, you know, take significant amount of risks in order to do that. And by no means I'm against people who do that. Like as I said, in an ideal world, I would be doing that. But just the way I am, someone who's slightly more conservative than a lot of my friends and peers, including yourself. So that's where I think I feel that I'm able to work with this community to do things for them, to support them and help them uh, grow and help them deliver, enable them. That's what gives me a lot of satisfaction.
But I wouldn't describe you as risk averse, to be honest, because uh, over the past 3-4 years, I've seen you uh, back us personally on so many occasions. And I know how big organizations work. I worked with Deutsche Bank for 3.5 years. I know it takes a lot to put your neck on the line for a startup, right? And again, like let's be honest, not every startup is going to survive. They are very, very risky to do as a entity. For you to put your name on the line for so many startups, it's not just us, right? There are a host of startups which you back, both internally as well as externally in front of the banks. And knowing what I've heard about you from so many banks and internally from so many other people within Mastercard, I don't think you are risk averse. In fact, you're probably the if you look at within the ecosystem of Mastercard, right? You're on one end of the spectrum where you are taking the most amount of risk, and probably that is what is driving your passion to work with startups. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
I no, I agree, Ankur. Yes. So again, it is the passion that drives a lot of these activities and work that any individual does, right? So yes, and the good thing about Mastercard as an organization is that it enables you to do that. It has enabled me to do that. It has given me the freedom and flexibility to do that, right? So it's not like, okay, you work with a startup, let's go through millions of documents and hundreds of days of evaluation to really figure out what it is. Yes, obviously due diligence and assessment, all of those things are important and we do that rigorously, but at the same time we understand how we can enable the ecosystem. The fact that the program exists in an organization like ours is testament to the belief that the organization is putting in the ecosystem. And then I kind of drive my energy uh, and passion from what the organization is enabling me to do. So that's actually allowed me to do that. So in a personal capacity, I would say that I'm risk averse. But what enables me to take these risks is, yes, the passion that I have, but also the support that I get from the organization across levels. And
So
yes, it essentially is about demonstrating what we can do. So you demonstrate a few tangible wins, then you have the backing and the belief from the rest of the organization. So that's what I try to do, to get those wins, to demonstrate some tangible results so that the belief will follow. That's essentially how I would do that.
From personal experience, specifically with respect to Nuclei, I know we have benefited a lot from our start path experience, as well as our overall relationship with the Mastercard team across geographies, across product lines, now hopefully across industries as well, right? Uh, I'm sure a lot of people, specifically fintech founders, would want to understand that on what, maybe at a high level, on what basis or what parameters do you judge particular fintechs on when you are assessing them to be part of Start Path? And given that it's a global program, you only select a handful of fintechs across the globe, across multiple geographies. Uh, this is relevant for, I think, almost every fintech across the globe, right? Can you
Right.
please describe that at a very high level?
Sure. Yeah. So as a program, we've been running this for almost 8 years now. And it started within the innovation unit of Mastercard called Mastercard Labs. The idea was to figure out what's happening outside our own four walls, right? Because it's important not to be narrow-minded and go with blinders into doing things. It's important to see what's happening. But at the same time, again, Mastercard has a, a, a brand name to keep up, and something within the industry that we are proud of, that we built over the past 60 years. So we need to weigh the pros and cons against how you engage and what are the types of engagements that you do. The selection process itself is uh, quite diligent, because we get a lot of applications, and as you said, only a handful get selected. It's a global program. We deliberately want it to be global because that's what gives us insights into what's happening in other markets, right? You need to know what is happening in every corner of the world, but that also limits the amount of time and the amount of reach that you can get, or amount of companies that you can bring into the program, uh, as opposed to focusing on a specific geography. So the type of companies that we select into the program, or the qualities that we look for, are typically, what is the problem that the company is trying to solve for? Is that something that is relevant for us as Mastercard, or is that something that is relevant for our customers? Because customer centricity is important for us. We as Mastercard have our own kitchen where we build our products and solutions, and we deploy that with our customers. But in some scenarios, it's not just sufficient for us to offer our capabilities to our customers. There are gaps that need to be filled from outside as well. So we look at the end-to-end value chain. We see what is it that we want to solve for. Are there internal capabilities that we can deploy? If not, are there external capabilities, right? So we look for that strategic fit in terms of what the company is doing and whether that is relevant to us as an organization, or the industry that we are in, or our customers. And we think about areas broader than payments here. So we don't specifically focus on core payments. We think about all adjacencies and complementary technologies when we evaluate them. Now, in terms of the stage or the level of the company, we typically don't work with too many early stage companies, because we are having a very specific focus on commercialization, right? Very specific focus on actual deployment. So it's not just about, hey, here is this interesting company, let's see what they can do. It's about, yes, they are doing interesting things. They have proven that they can do interesting things and solve for certain problem sets. Let's help you with the relevant connections, the relevant solutions to solve for your problem. This is how our narrative to our customers would be. So it has to be a later stage company, although there are some early stage companies that we work with for various reasons, because as I said, this is a program that gives us access into what's happening outside. So if there is a completely new technology, which as a technology has not matured enough, we still don't want to be in a position where we say, oh, we'll wait for it to mature and then see what it can do. We still would want to see some early engagements for our own learning, for our own experiences, and we would work with such companies. But at a high level, in the majority, we work with companies that are having real life use cases, that have solved for customer problems, have customer implementations, have raised sufficient amount of funding to give them enough runway to sustain an engagement, because the last thing that we want to do is we introduce a startup to a customer and then they run out of money, or there are some uh, strategic direction changes or management changes which essentially put us in the back, right? So we don't want to end up in those situations, so we try to balance it out, but these are the key criteria that we look at. And then the biggest advantage that any startup can get out of working with a company like Mastercard is a global network that we offer. So we are really looking for, solutions that can be deployed in multiple markets, because our network is one of our biggest strengths. If there is a company in, let's say Vietnam solving for a problem that can equally be relevant for a market in Africa, it's great that we are able to make that connect, and it's great that we are able to help the customer in Africa and also the startup in Vietnam to mutually work together. So leveraging our global network is important for us. So we really look for those companies who have global aspirations, who are looking at solving for problems in multiple markets in alignment with our strategic priorities.
Awesome, awesome. That's a very good answer. Now, I know I could be putting you on the spot because the list could be long, but uh, can you briefly or maybe give one or two examples where startups which have worked with the Starkpart team, and because the focus has been on commercialization, right? So uh, some success stories
Sure.
of maybe a couple of startups or two, three names which people would like to know about.
Sure. I mean, one of the examples is you yourself, like, right, Ankur. So we've worked together with a bunch of customers in the Middle East where, we've not just introduced you, but actually worked together in solutioning for the customer. So that's one example. A couple of others I can think of are, there's a company in South Africa called Ukeshe who are building, both B2C and B2B products for consumers and merchants. So we work closely with them. We provide technology to them. We work on, co-creation of solutions and solve for the needs of banks and telcos across multiple markets. Another example that I can think about is a company called, SnapSwap out of Luxembourg. So they started with digital identity solutions, but soon enough realized that they want to get into, the issuing side of things. So we help them with that journey, right? We help them while they were solving for digital identity or eKYC pain points, but also as they were changing into a kind of a neobank, right? On specific use cases, we were with them through the journey, offering them the right capabilities, introducing them to the right partners, and making sure that they achieve success, because in the end, their success is what our success is.
Awesome, awesome. I'm sure there are many more names, and we
Yep.
probably wouldn't have enough time to cover all of them. But I also understand, and you were speaking about this before we started recording, that uh, your role within the organization has changed, and the way Startpart team was earlier structured across the globe has now been split into two verticals. Can you just throw some light on how the teams are structured now, and what are the overall objectives of various teams?
Sure. So yeah, so essentially what we have done at Mastercard is we now are focusing heavily on what is it that we can do for fintechs. The way we have been operating over the past 60 years, the way we have set up our processes and technology have been kind of, driven by the needs of our traditional customers. Now there is a timely requirement to think about how we can be more fintech friendly, be more fintech fit in terms of our solutions. So the way we are thinking about it is these programs like StartPath, and another program that we have within our organization is called Engage, where we focus on those fintechs or capability partners who are able to deploy our solutions at scale with customers. So they essentially become distribution partners for our solutions, and that is again an important aspect of how we are able to achieve scale. So while programs are important, while the engagement is important, we've now realized that we need to think about a different set of product capabilities and platform capabilities. So I'm now going to focus a lot more on the product and platform strategy in terms of how we work with fintechs. Still in early days, but essentially what we are trying to do is how we can appeal more to developers, because developers are now important decision makers in the fintech community or any other tech startup that you look at, right? So traditionally, we would engage with a business person or a product person, but now we are seeing that developers hold a lot of influence in terms of buying decisions of technology, and so we want to be in that space where we work closer with the developer community. If you've seen in November of last year, we announced the launch of Mastercard Developers as the umbrella fintech program. So all these programs like StartPath, Engage, etc., would fall under the broader Mastercard Developers brand that we are now, putting out there. So within this new role, I'll be focusing more on how we can make ourselves more digital first, or as I said earlier, fintech fit. Now, what does that mean? It means that our solutions should be digitally discoverable, right? That's what developers are doing. They would go and look for solutions. They would want to test it out. They want to see if that solution is something that is fit for themselves and something that they can consume. And then the conversation on, how to structure the pricing and the contract and everything would happen. So we need to focus on digital discovery. We need to focus on areas like self-service. We need to focus on APIs as a front-end sender of our product strategy. So those are kind of the new aspects that I would be working on, and this is the direction that we want to pursue. As I said, we don't want to really be bogged down by what we have been doing over the past 60 years. We really want to be innovative as we go along, and that's what we've been as an organization. So one of the interesting things about Mastercard and the way we have been doing business is innovation has been at the core of our culture and our organization, right? And this is what has been exciting for me to do, different roles across different segments, to stick along for such a long time and see what we are able to bring as changes in the industry. So making sure that as an organization that we do that is important, and this function will allow us to do that.
Awesome. That's a good answer. We understand that now within this particular role, you will be building up a platform which fintechs and banks can build on top of. In addition to that, let me ask you a very pertinent question with respect to fintechs and banks. And there have been a lot of noise and a lot of articles written about whether fintechs are going to disrupt banks, whether it's a zero-sum game and banks might become essentially just the pipes, and fintechs might become the interface through which customers interact with various financial products. Do you believe it's a zero-sum game, or do you believe it's a combination of fintechs and banks collaborating together and then going forward?
So I believe it's the latter. And essentially what the fintech revolution has enabled is choice for consumers, right? You now have, as consumers, you have a lot of options. What we are seeing is banks definitely are not going to, sit back and wait for all of these changes to happen. We've seen a lot of banks innovating. They are undergoing digital transformation themselves, and a lot of it has been generated by the fintech activity that has been happening around them. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where a bank would just sit on the you know on in the back end and provide the pipes. They are also trying to rediscover, they are also trying to evolve, but at the same time the fintechs are also competing with banks. They are also competing among themselves. In the end, a lot of these players will start coexisting. Earlier we would always think that a consumer would trust a bank with his or her money. Now we are seeing that the options that they have, the confidence that they have is becoming broader. It doesn't take away the trust element from banks, but with new technology, with new capabilities, the ability to consume services from multiple providers is only going to grow. Right? If you look at open banking, now what started in Europe and is spreading across all the markets pretty much is around how you can leverage the data that you have, or the data and the details of consumers that a bank have to enable new capabilities, new use cases. So we will see an ecosystem where the fintechs and bank will start flourishing, and in the end, it's about how we can enable that growth as Mastercard. That's what we would be focusing on. So I don't think it's going to be a zero-sum game. In the end, banks do have a lot of uh, trust in the ecosystem. They do have uh, you know large amounts of consumers, right, or merchant partners that they have that other fintechs can collaborate and work with. And this is something that we have been facilitating through StartPath as a program. This is what we've been seeing, as a very what do you say, quid pro quo sort of a situation where the banks are able to leverage new technology from the fintechs are able to leverage the scale that the banks have, and it will coexist. So I don't think it's going to be, the end of banking or something like that. It's just about all of the banks trying to rediscover themselves, fintechs again trying to be more competitive, come up with new use cases, new solutions, and it will essentially lift all boats.
So essentially, market is going to become deeper. Fintechs will
Yeah.
help the banks engage more deeply with their customers. And then, of course, within your new role, you will create a platform on which fintechs and banks can together collaborate and build on top of. So that's going to be a really good ecosystem. I'm really excited to see that come through. Okay, Shyam, this has been a very interesting conversation. Wish you the best with this new role, and I'm sure that the amount of passion which you brought to the StarPart team, uh, something more you're going to bring to the platform team as well. And I look forward to working with you for many, many years. And as I said earlier, wish you the best for your new role. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank
this
you.
podcast. Thank you very much.
And thanks, Ankur. Likewise, it's been a great, experience of working with you. I really like the way you are building your company and the way you are supporting your employees and giving them the freedom and flexibility to experiment with new ideas. Something that I don't see very often. So I really think that's a very important cultural aspect that you bring to the table. And again, all the very best to you too and the entire Nuclei team.
Thank you, Sham. That's very kind of
Great.
you. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Thank you. Bye.